Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've already fought against a couple of old friends. It's time to take on the rest of them. Not including Baby, though, because, you know, not right now. Sorry, Baby. But I have plenty of footage to struggle against with these guys, so I think it's going to be fine. Ladies and gentlemen, while I named the original FNAF 3 video Takes on the Purple Guy, I'm just not vibing on that anymore. So I renamed the video, but it is going to be a rematch video with Springtrap. They are fundamentally the same character. It's fine. But yeah, the lead up to FNAF 3 and 4 was kind of crazy. Like, a lot of people actually thought that Scott was going to take a break after the third game because, you know, it's a trilogy, but no. FNAF 4 soon came out afterwards. And FNAF 3 came out on the heels of FNAF 1 and 2. So, I hate to tell you guys this, there is not actually a whole lot of history that I can add to this that wasn't already in my rematch video taking on Freddy Fazbear. If you haven't, go watch it. Just gonna say that now. But I also talked about how FNAF 1 and 2 were in my top 3 games, and sadly, FNAF 3 and 4 are not. So are these games bad? Well, let's start up the games and find out, shall we? Let's do it. Let's start with FNAF 3, and let's take on Springtrap. Time for a rematch. So FNAF 3 started hinting in the airwaves soon after FNAF 2 was played to death by every YouTuber under the sun. The weird thing is, this was advertised as only having one animatronic. Yeah, that's right. FNAF 3 started out with Springtrap being the only animatronic advertised for this game, but eventually Scott revealed Phantom Balloon Boy. What the hell was that about? No idea until the game actually came out, so let's start on that real quick. So when it comes to the plot, we're thrown into it very quickly. The plot is you're basically a security guard working for a horror-themed attraction instead of a pizzeria. Yeah, that's about it. You have pieces of the animatronic littered all throughout the place. Think of it like a museum, and some of the pieces and, you know, platings of the animatronics are here, but overall they have yet to find a working one. However, after night 1, that changes. Night 2, you have a live animatronic wandering the place, and you'll have to keep it away from your office to survive. This is Springtrap, and it becomes very obvious this bastard likes hide and seek, as he is hard to see on camera sometimes. In between nights, we get his origin story. You play as animatronics in these minigames, and you follow this Shadow Freddy to the back room. Once you can't enter it, things happen. The purple guy, or the serial killer of the children, bursts out and undoes your played animatronic to pieces. However, you may know about this back room already. See, some of the training tapes on the Springlock suits plays when you're doing your nights, and it does explain that these suits function as both suits and animatronics. But due to issues, they were very much retired for safety reasons. This is the very suit that is talked about in FNAF 2, and the back room it is hiding in is a place not on the map or place an animatronic can even get to. In the minigames between nights, we learned that all the animatronics were disassembled by the purple guy until only ghosts were left. The ghosts still came after him until he jumped into the Spring Bonnie costume to hide, but this outfit was under a leaky roof. You learn that moisture will cause the suit to malfunction and snap closed, which happens to the purple guy, killing him more or less. However, his soul never left, and he is stuck in that Spring Bonnie suit, the very one trying to kill you in the main gameplay. Oops. Yeah, him dodging and ducking cameras isn't just a gameplay feature, it's also showing you how this evil man basically got away with things for so long. After you defeat Springtrap enough, the place burns down. But it is secretly revealed that Springtrap actually escaped the building. Oops! Moving right along with the presentation, the big question is the game scary? And the answer is, kind of. Some of the cameras will trigger phantom animatronics. These things scare the hell out of your character and mess with some of the systems of the building. But while terrifying, they don't actually directly hurt you. They're more a pain to work around rather than direct threats. Only Springtrap can actually kill you. Not gonna lie, I do love his design. If you look closely, you can see the dead body of Purple Guy stuck in Springtrap, which is a lovely touch. He's also great at hiding on camera as well, which again is a lovely touch, something I already mentioned beforehand. Sure, he may be on one of the cameras, but you may not actually see him at all. As for the phantoms, these are okay. None of them are my favorite designs, though. I'm not the biggest fan of the burnt out designs they have. Most people think that they're like made out of watermelon for some reason. Freddy and Foxy look fine, I guess, but Chica does actually look like a watermelon. Okay, I guess I see it now. And the puppet hardly looks any different. The area isn't too imposing either. For a horror attraction, somehow this place feels less creepy than the other games. Probably because the other games were more subtle. Given, I mostly trap Springtrap near the far exit of the building when I play, so I mostly see him over on the far end of the building. I rarely ever see, Phantom Marionette, I guess you could call it, or even Phantom Mangle, who I never actually saw during my gameplay because I never go to the camera that activates the dang thing. So how do you trap Springtrap like I did? Simple. You actually have an audio cue button you can press. Pick a camera and send that audio that sounds like a child. Springtrap will often investigate the sound, allowing you to lure him to specific cameras. Of course, if you do this with a camera too far away, Springtrap won't hear it. He may have big ears, but they're fake. So you have to do this with a camera that's somewhat close by for Springtrap to follow the sounds. Springtrap will also climb into vents, but you can close one off, and if you're quick enough, you can close the one that he happens to be in. You can hear him get into one pretty well. As long as you're quick and kind of know which vent he's nearby, you should be fine. If not, he'll have a shortcut straight to your office. Speaking of your office, this place just sucks in general. Your camera systems are out of date horridly, so they may just, die. Same with the audio system. If this happens, you'll have to reset the systems in question. You may also have to reset the ventilation because, breathing is difficult around here. If the ventilation stops working, a loud alarm will start blaring in your office, and the sounds will start to attract Springtrap. The phantoms could end up causing a lot of these problems too, but avoiding the phantoms isn't too difficult, however. Excluding Foxy. You just ignore them. If they show up on camera, switch the camera as fast as possible or they'll haunt you. With Freddy and Foxy, you have to ignore them as well, but Foxy's kind of tough. He just shows up in your office, and when you look directly at him, he jump scares you. This won't kill you, of course, but like I said, it messes with your ventilation. Still, the only reason you'd pan your view across to where he is would be to reboot the system anyway, so oops. I personally find the best strategy is to trap Springtrap at the far exit and close off the vent that leads directly to your office. This isn't perfect, but it works pretty well. Whenever Springtrap leaves, which glitches the camera by the way, I just call him back. When the camera glitches again, signaling his return, I rush over and reboot his system. Even if not offline, rebooting the systems resets them so you can use them longer. If he stupidly crawls into the vent, I reboot everything at once. He takes longer in the vent, and since you can hear him when he gets into it, you can get away with the reboot all option then and there, resetting everything back to the original counters. The only real obstacle would actually be Phantom Foxy, which will force you to reset the vents instead of the camera or audio, but even then, Springtrap is mostly trapped where he's at. Worst case scenario, if he gets away from you, he might be kind of hard to spot on the camera, and if you haven't practiced spying him on the camera, you might just be dead meat. That happens to me every so often, but for the most part, I'm pretty good about keeping him where he's at, making the game one of the easier ones, actually. Now, unlike the last game, dying to Springtrap doesn't actually do much for you, outside of maybe this hidden image of him trying to break out of his suit that you see every so often. There are minigames, like the last game, but they're all hidden in the game itself. The in-between story sections do give you hints on how to find these, though. Finding cupcakes on cameras or clicking specific pictures is fine, but who the hell caught dialing wall tiles like a phone without a guide? What the hell? Either way, playing these games are simple. Get to the exit type games that you want to break, through the walls of the game itself and glitch out. Yep. You gotta glitch it to actually beat it. You collect some balloons and a cake and going through some of the earlier mini games on like day 1 and 2, and then you use this cake to find crying children outside of the walls of the games. After giving all these kids cake, you eventually give relief to all the spirits that the killer murdered and release them. This gives you the good ending. What's the difference between the good ending and the bad ending? One has a light and one doesn't on the image that you get for ending the game. Yippee. Yeah, this sucks. You do unlock an extra night with some unlockables though, so that's kind of cool. FNAF 3 is just one of those games. The games that aren't bad, but aren't great either. It exists. It's a FNAF game if you love FNAF, but it has a bit of a lower quality feel to it compared to the last 2 games. The story is actually the best part out of the game itself, and one of the best storytelling aspects of the series so far. However, the rest of the game isn't great. Springtrap is fantastic at hiding on camera, but looks goofy while killing you. Him peeking out through the doorway as you stare him down is just silly if I'm honest. And yes, you can beat the game this way, by the way. This is an actual strategy. Just stare him down until 6 o'clock. It's great. Oh, it's fantastic, but not really. The phantoms can't kill you and lose their fearsomeness really quickly too. The gameplay is easy, and while the RNG can be a bit of annoying, it doesn't interfere with you dealing with Springtrap if you know what to do. Not as much, anyway. The minigames are also kind of annoying to get without a guide, but they have a really small payoff, too. Yeah, finding them will almost require a guide because random string of numbers isn't exactly a great hint for dialing the wall and getting... I'm still kind of mad about that. It is hard to describe, though, because at the end of the day, there is fun here to be had. The game being easy doesn't directly mean bad by any means. It just doesn't do enough of the concept. The phantoms are interesting, and Springtrap could be terrifying, but it just ends up not being the case. Promising on paper, but execution could use some work. I wouldn't recommend this over the other FNAF games personally, unless you absolutely love the other FNAF games. Okay, now for the big one. I'm not gonna lie, I hate this game. Least favorite in the series, if I'm gonna be honest. For those of you who don't know, I wussed out playing this game originally. Yeah, the footage I used was borrowed, partially because the game stressed me out so much that I ended up not being able to play it. So is that the case now? Kind of, but not really. Let's get into this one and give my opinions on the matter, shall we? Let's do this with my own footage. Let's do this. Let's take on the nightmares. Time for a rematch. So once again, the storytelling is actually pretty decent this time around. The story is basically the origins of Golden Freddy. At least I'm assuming as much. It's just what it seems. He was originally a small child, tortured and ultimately killed via accidentally by bullying. Mostly by his older brother. His older brother is an asshat for sure. Basically, the older brother would lock up the younger brother in his room, leave him at the restaurant with the suit animatronic hybrids of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Then towards the end, on his own birthday, this poor crying child was crammed into an animatronic mouth, and due to the moisture of his own tears, the spring suit snapped. This ultimately killed him, and now he possesses the Golden Freddy animatronic. There's this whole thing about this, and it's debated. He might not be Golden Freddy. But then what would the point of this story be exactly? It does nothing to expand on the initial concepts if he isn't possessing Golden Freddy. Anyway, while I don't think the storytelling is as good as it is in FNAF 3, I'd say it's pretty good regardless. The in-game stuff is where it gets a little confusing. Are you playing as the older brother tortured by the visions of nightmares? Are you the victim of 89 and just hallucinating this? Well, maybe not. This area shows up in FNAF's sister location later on proving that this is an actual real-life location. Ugh, this makes my head hurt. There are secrets I'll get into in a bit, but for now, this game is a bit confusing lore-wise. However, the concept is horrific. You are basically a young child, and your job is to run up to pitch black hallways and see if there's an animatronic there. These things are horrible too. Shark-like jaws with rows of teeth and other menacingly designed things. These aren't subtle. They're built to be nightmares. This concept is just the worst. You have to listen for breathing from the animatronics. It's an electronic-like noise. Then the most annoying alarm clock sounds happens at 6 a.m. The designs are pretty good too, and the Halloween update helps this a lot. This makes Bonnie and Chica look like jack-o'-lanterns, like monsters, which is really cool. Foxy turns into Nightmare Mangle, and Plushtrap turns into Balloon Boy Nightmare style. This is another thing that is absolutely scary, but I'll explain it in a bit. Nightmare, Fredbear, and Freddy don't change at all, but the Nightmare, which is a black bear, turns into the Nightmare version of the puppet for some reason. This may seem like nothing, but it's important to note that Lefty shows up later in the series, and it looks a lot like the black bear Nightmare thing. Lefty also has the puppet stuck inside him. Oops. Regardless, the Halloween update is mostly just a redesign to make the game more Halloween feeling. And it works! Now, while I normally don't really like the animatronics when they look terrifying from the get-go, I'm not going to lie, this isn't a pizzeria that you're in. This is A, nightmares that people are experiencing, or B, a test chamber to scare the living daylights out of children anyway. So, yeah, them actually looking scary from the get-go is perfectly fine here. It works. To actually play the game, you have to run up to one of the two doors and listen. You hear nothing? Turn on your flashlight. This may actually push back one of the animatronics from attacking you. If you hear the breathing noise, then you need to close the door. If you hear breathing and turn on your flashlight, you die. If you close the door and Bonnie and Chica aren't behind it immediately, they will be when you open it back up, leading to your death. It may seem weird, but cheats kind of help you understand the mechanics a little better on how this actually works. I like having them on, because I can actually see the animatronics moving around the map and understand a bit more on how the game plays. Foxy gets in and hides in the closet, forcing you to run up to it and closing the doors until he settles down, turning into a plush. If you don't, he'll eventually kill you. Freddy's the odd one out. He starts summoning smaller versions of himself on the bed up behind you. Scare them away with your flashlight, or they will summon Freddy for a big bear hug. Eventually, you start dealing with Fredbear. He runs all over the place, which you have to listen for him to enter one of the hallways. When he does enter a hallway, you have to basically run up and close that door relatively quickly, or he'll get you. He can also replace, Foxy and Freddy every so often as well. Once Fredbear enters, he is the only animatronic you have to deal with. He moves around, and like I said, he will occasionally replace Foxy or Freddy, or replace Chica or Bonnie. He basically does the job of all four animatronics, but he's one animatronic. Deal with him like the other animatronics and should be fine. Just listen for his movements to figure out which animatronic he's replacing. Nightmare is just a more aggressive version of Fredbear. Is this any fun? Kind of. You get into repetition really fast here, though. Once the initial fear is gone, this game is kind of dull. Probably more dull than any other FNAF game. That's probably not a good thing. Oh, there's also fun with Plushtrap. This is another mini-game. You have to wait in a dark hallway as Plushtrap, or Nightmare Balloon Boy, slowly makes his way towards you. You have to turn on your light when he is super close to you without actually getting killed. Do this, and some time is knocked off of your original night. I did this without sound one time, but you're supposed to actually listen for him. Nightmare BB replaces him in the Halloween update. Every so often when you look back to face off against Freddy, you can actually see some hospital equipment or flowers up near the bed. I didn't see any of these that I'm aware of, though. In the minigames, when the crying child, you can find a TV show from 1983 giving you a date on kind of when this happens. You can also go and see Purple Man, too. And that's it. You can unlock things by playing the game and beating it, but that's about it. The cheats are fun to play with, though, and I found the night skip on PC version. Yeah, I cheated to beat the game. Once I got bored, I was all done with the game, which is never a good feeling when you're playing it. Yes, I got bored. This isn't a great game. The gameplay is great for the scares, but once you get past that, this game is just boring. Don't get me wrong, all the FNAF games kind of get a bit repetitious, but this is the worst one of the repetitious side of things. Yes, the story is good. Yes, this is the most terrifying game in the series, making it stand out more than FNAF 3, but that's about it. If you lose the fear factor in this game, it becomes boring. Sacrificing gameplay for fear is not a good thing at all. I'd still recommend this over FNAF 3. At least this game does something interesting with the concept, but still, the only thing breaking up the normal nights is fun with Springtrap, which is actually kind of fun and really good, but it's still just a mini game. It won't be the main thing you do in the nights, but you can unlock it after beating the main game, which is kind of cool. I do recommend this game over the third one. I cannot stress that enough. But I do not recommend this game over the first and second FNAF games. This might be a good start to the series with the high fear factor, but outside of that, I'm still going to argue that this is one of the lower ones in the series. Well, that's all the time I have to talk about FNAF. Kind of. I'm actually going to be doing FNAF World and the free update. Yeah. When I originally wrote the script, I was not planning on actually playing FNAF World for this little callback to FNAF, but I did. I don't know why, but I felt compelled and I did. And I played the update. And there's that. So, yeah. I'm going to have a dedicated video to FNAF World and its free update. Later on, I will combine Sister Location, Pizzeria Simulator, and Custom Night all in one video afterwards, but that is for another time. Take care, everyone. While I still recommend trying these games out, feel free to ignore the third game, and maybe the fourth too. Also, like, subscribe, comment on the video. It does help out my channel immensely. The bell also helps out a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.